now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku.
Good morning, Yolanda. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I am very well. Charles and Sumna, I hope you guys are doing great.
A very good morning to you, Constance. Glad to have you on.
Thank you. So let's look at the headlines today to look at what's making the headlines. We have Chuks Akunna. He is the Executive Director of Authority newspaper. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with This Day newspaper. In This Day, National Assembly fought FG's appetite for foreign loans despite surpassing revenue targets. Recapitalization. Banks have raised 1.7 trillion naira from capital markets, SEC reveals. Tinubu Ecstatic as 94.43% of non-oil contribution grows GDP by 3.46% in Q3. Shettima canvasses tech-driven strategy to combat terrorism, border security. Vice President Kashim Shettima says the security challenges we face require innovative solutions. He spoke about Nigeria's tech-savvy young people and their successes, which demonstrates that with determination and innovation, these border security challenges and terrorism can be tackled. I mean, the issue here is not that solutions and opportunities are not available. The problem has always been that there is lack of strategic thinking and outright refusal sometimes by the government to do the right thing. Chuks, welcome. What's your thought on that?
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much for having me. The truth is that they say necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. See, when people have challenges, they tend to actually think out of the box. Look at countries like Japan. It's not surprising that you find that most of the most fuel-efficient cars in the world are made by Japanese because they do not have petroleum and fossil fuels. So it's what you have that you use to actually overcome nature's challenges, and that's exactly what the Vice President has been talking about. Look at our GDP growth, that was revealed by the National Bureau for Statistics. Don't forget that a few months ago, just about 2 or 3 months ago, WTO Director General, who was Minister of Finance in Nigeria during the Jonathan era, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, she disclosed that Nigeria's GDP had experienced steady decline from 2014. So it's not surprising that President Tinubu is excited that about, not just about the rise in our GDP, but by the fact that agriculture is responsible for nearly 30% of the growth that was registered in third quarter of 2024. So in 10 years, steady decline, then suddenly 2024, the third quarter, agriculture, tipping the scales, for the first time in over 10 years. So you wouldn't blame President Tinubu if he's excited about that. So it shows that Nigerians have really gone back to agriculture and that agriculture is now the major driver of the Nigerian economy.
Well, let's focus a little bit on the security aspect of the country because it's very important. And when you look at some of the other headlines in other newspapers, it talks about this Lukarawa group that is causing a lot of problems and that is expanding really in the northern part of the country. Charles, any thoughts here on what the Vice President has said? The problem sometimes looks like or is that certain elements use this opportunity to undermine the country, even when a lot of money is voted for security challenges in the country. At this time, the Vice President says we need to focus on technology, and that's very important in bringing to a close, or at least, addressing this big problem that we have in the country.
That suggestion has been there all the time. I've talked about lots of military experts, and they say it's time to adopt technology. Different kinds of military technology. Sometimes, they talk about using of satellite imaging to triangulate the positions of the bandits and terrorists in the remote areas. They talk about the use of drones. That conversation has been ongoing for a long time now. So I don't think it's really anything new. The Vice President is talking about the adoption of technology. But then the issue of, this effort being sabotaged. I've heard lots of people, analysts say, when a situation persists for so long, then someone actually is deliberately fueling it, and that actually begs the question at the moment. Why is it that the issue of terrorism, banditry, and even the insurgency has persisted for so long, despite the fact that the Nigerian armed forces have performed so very well when they are on international duty? And here in Nigeria, it has become so intractable. It does mean, according to some experts, that somebody somewhere is actually deliberately fueling the situation for some reason. Some say it's because, well, there's a lot of money into fighting terrorism and it can be siphoned conveniently. That's my take.
Well, an ongoing challenge for the country. Let's look at Vanguard newspaper. GDP growth figures, more work needs to be done, according to the president. 2027 opposition parties must, unite against APC. Experts have said, Emami condemns smashing of Chevron pipelines in Delta. FG to NAS, we borrowed based on your approvals, talking about all the borrowing that is going on. The president has requested for more borrowing in order to fund the budget. Southwest lawmakers resolved to lobby governors. And then we'll go back to the GDP growth figures today. And the President Bola Tinubu was reported as expressing excitement over the third quarter growth of the economy by 3.46%. The growth rate was released by the National Bureau of Statistics. However, the president acknowledged that more work needs to be done. I mean, the president is right to tame this excitement with reality for a country that is over 200 million people, with over 50% of the youth population, with millions in poverty and a lot of people unemployed. The level of growth seems insignificant at this moment. It's very little, Chooks, isn't it?
Yes, I mentioned earlier that WTO Director General Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala had in August, expressed regret that for the past 10 years that Nigeria's GDP had shown a steady decline. So, it's a half-breed, they say, is better than nothing. So for Nigeria to have recorded this success, from 3.8% in 2014 to 3.46 or so this preceding quarter. It calls for excitement, and in politics, every figure counts. So you wouldn't blame President Tinubu for expressing excitement, but it's also good that he's setting a target of $1 trillion US dollars for Nigeria in 2030. So they say the more work needed to be done, and I totally agree with him. You spoke about Nigeria's 200 million plus population. It's a far cry, compared to the abundant human and natural resources that we have in Nigeria. One of the greatest countries on earth, teeming population, very intelligent people, very smart people. So, I know that, with the required reforms and government with its eyes on the ball, that these targets are really, really achievable.
And it's also important to look at the top contributors to the GDP growth. Quickly, we have sectors such as agriculture contributing 26.65%, ICT is 16.35%, you have trade 14.78%, manufacturing 8.21%, finance and insurance 5.51%, real estate 5.43%, and oil 5.57%. So this speaks again to diversification of the economy. Oil is just 5.56%. Agriculture over 20%. So there are opportunities to expand this economy. Let's look at the Guardian newspaper. In the Guardian, GDP defies inflation shocks as more Nigerians take informal jobs. Edwin Clark decries reverse political crisis, faults lawmakers' defection. Despite challenges, Nigeria's economy grows by 3.4%. Again, that's on that. Federal government defends borrowing at NMPCL. FIRS customs surpassed 2024 targets. NBA slams EFCC boss for accusing lawyers of money laundering. The president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, told the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukayede, not to make sweeping allegations against lawyers without evidence. Olukoyede had said lawyers play a big role in facilitating financial fraud and therefore are primary enablers of crime. I mean, Osigwe has a point here. Generalizations are not helpful. And it is, in fact, damaging for the legal profession and for the judiciary as a whole. At the same time, this calls for a closer look and examination of the ills here that we're talking about, Chooks. Don't you think so?
Yes. Both the EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede, and the NBA president are right. Yes, while it's not right to make sweeping statements, but I think the EFCC chairman, being the top investigator of financial crimes in Nigeria, was very sure of his facts. Don't forget that he's also a lawyer, because it would have been different if he wasn't a lawyer. The truth is that most of these cases, most of these transactions are actually handled by lawyers. If you're going to buy a house, a property you're going to buy, you're going to send money abroad, you're going to invest in anything, don't forget that we always, legal documents are usually signed, and who handles these documents? They are lawyers. So the EFCC chairman, should be commended for being bold enough to actually make this scathing comment about his profession, his colleagues. But then the EFCC, the NBA president, Afam Osigwe, too, has a duty to actually protect his own. Apparently, he's been under fire since the EFCC chairman made that scathing, that vitriolic remark. And he's saying that don't generalize about this. Don't make sweeping statements. If you have proof, why have you not actually prosecuted these lawyers? But, generally, it calls for introspection, both on the side of the law, lawyers, those who want to, who actually stand to defend the rights of citizens. Right. The EFCC chairman spoke about, the frivolous amounts they charge, when handling cases for clients.
Okay, Yolanda, I'd like to bring you to the next story. Let's look at the Punch newspaper. FG plans more troops as sect spreads in the northern part of the country. That's, regarding the Lukarawa, the new group that we're facing. There is causing problems in that part of the country. States tackle NMPCL over extra 1 trillion subsidy payment. Labor protest, NBS drop in the employment rate report. Then JAPA workers on FG payroll resigning amid probe, HOCF. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Didi Wilson Jack, says the probe is still ongoing regarding civil servants who have left the country but are still receiving salaries. Now, a lot of them are resigning after the probe began. Others have returned to the country to resume work. I mean, what a criminal behavior. You've left the country, but you still want to be paid. We recall that President Bola Tinubu ordered all those who have relocated abroad not to receive salaries, and those who have received to refund them. It's unbelievable, Yolanda, isn't it?
Completely. Very shocking headlines.
Yeah, go ahead, you were saying? Yeah, Yolanda, you were saying.
Oh, yes, I was saying, no, the headline is quite shocking. It's jarring to hear such a remark, but, I wonder what our analyst has to say about that and what more he can contribute to that, because there's a lot to take away from that.
There is a lot. Chooks, yes, when civil servants leave the country and they're still receiving salaries, yes, they need to refund the money.
Exactly. This is very, very evil. We see Nigerians complain about Nigeria, that Nigeria is not working, that things are not working here, so they want to relocate to greener pastures where things work. But these same elements, when having relocated, they still drawing salaries from Nigeria. This is very, very criminal. And I wish to commend the government, particularly the head of Civil Service of the Federation. This probe should intensify so that let's know how many civil servants we have left. We can't be paying, we can't be fueling their lifestyle. You are here, you are there abroad and drawing salaries from Nigeria. It's a double jeopardy for Nigeria, for Nigerian taxpayers, because you want to enjoy the best of both worlds. You want to enjoy life in America, and you want Nigerians here, to actually sustain that lifestyle for you free of charge.
Right. Vanguard newspapers, mixed reactions trail move to privatize Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refinery. Plans are underway to privatize these refineries, according to information from the presidency. Based on this, the team says that the days of few queues are numbered. Here we go again. Problematic refineries, 3 of them 445,000 barrels per day capacity, but consistently performing below capacity. I remember that during President Olusegun Obasanjo, these refineries were privatized, or attempts were made to be privatized. And then when President Omar Musa Yar'Adua came into power, this was reversed completely. And now we are back to square one. They want to privatize them. Well, let's see whether this happens finally, because at the end of the day, people are paid salaries, but they are not working. Daily Trust: Tinubu didn't seek NAS approval to buy presidential jet. This is according to Senator Enyin Naya Abaribe. He says the president got his controversial jet without any approval at all. Chuks, any thought on that?
Yes, and I wonder what the Senate or senators are doing about that. Because it's actually criminal. It's actually against the law to spend a dime of taxpayers' money, of the public money, without approval by National Assembly. So it's not enough that Senator Abaribe is telling us that the president bought this without approval. What is the Senate or National Assembly doing about that? That's it. Because if there's any constitutional infringement by the president, no matter how little it might be, the fact remains that it's a constitutional infringement. So, and there are there's punishment for that. So what is the Senate, beyond telling us that this happened, what are senators going to do about that?
Right.
That's what Nigerians are interested in.
Okay, let's look at the international headlines. Citizen newspaper in South Africa: crime, good, bad, and ugly, with violent crime slightly down. Gender-based violence and femicide is a source of worry to South Africans. Police boss Senzo Muchion says it's a national priority. There's also the talk about teaching young girls and boys that violence is not love. Apparently, people think that beating up their spouses is a form of love. It's an epidemic right now in South Africa, says this report, and the government is making this a priority. Also, SA Mon's struggle writer, Breton Bach. Breton Bach died in his sleep in Paris. He was aged 85. He was a renowned anti-apartheid writer. May his soul rest in peace. South Africa's on mourning. And then let's look at The Guardian this morning. Trump criminal cases are dropped. Special counsel prosecutors dismiss the 2 federal criminal cases against Donald Trump in separate court filings yesterday. The trial will not proceed because Trump returns to the White House next year. Interesting sort of event in America. To Republicans, this makes sense because a certain president cannot be prosecuted. But many Democrats say this is a wrong move and, indicates or give the impression that Trump is above the law. What do you think, Chuks, on this?
Exactly. Anywhere in the world, the president is not only seen to be above the law, but actually above the law. When the judge promised to actually handle the case after the elections, the presidential elections, I suspected that this was going to happen. So it was like the court was waiting to see if Trump was going to win or if Kamala Harris was going to win. So the question is, would the charges have been suspended had Donald Trump lost the election? These are some of the issues. Yeah. So it goes to show that presidents all over the world are very, very powerful figures, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. Some now would like you to come in here. If he's going to be president in January, it is impossible to prosecute him, right? What do you do? But according to this case, it says that after he leaves office, that case can still be brought against him, Sumner.
Actually, they said it's going to be without prejudice. That's the expression used. So, of course, it's not done and dusted for Trump. He's not off the hook yet. Yes, as long as he's president, he cannot and will not be prosecuted. But then, of course, something has to be done. And, the guy's a businessman. He wills and deals. He might just get himself off the hook some way, somehow. You can't put anything beyond that man. But the fact still remains that after his tenure, there is the likelihood that he is still going to face some prosecution. So let's wait and see how he's going to get out of that.
Yeah. If I can just add to that, like Chuk said, no matter how we feel about it, presidents are very, very powerful figures all over the world. And this kind of reminds me a little bit about the constant probing of governors after they've left seats by the EFCC. It reminds me a little bit about that. So we'll see, like Charles has said, what happens to Donald Trump after his tenure.
All right. Finally, we'll look at Daily Mail. No more tax rises, insists Reeves. Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, defends her budget. She says that, she is actually trying to head off a growing business revolt over the £40 billion tax bomb, that she slammed on the country. Businesses say her national insurance rate will hit jobs, growth, and investment, and she's promising that there will be no more. At the same time, businesses are furious, and they say they've been treated as a cash cow to be milked and nothing more, Chooks.
Yes, Chancellor of the Exchequer Reeves, apparently mindful, not unmindful of the backlash, her tax project, if you allow me to say that, has had on the UK. It has come out to say that there will be no more tax rises. For some of us who live in this part of the world, we don't actually understand how much taxes mean to the Western world, to most countries of the world. People are very, very mindful about how much they pay because it's not easy to actually generate all the monies and then it goes away, it's filtered away in form of taxes.
Yeah.
So that's why the government is assuring that there will be no more tax rises in the UK.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chooks. I'm afraid that's the much that we can take for paper review today.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. It's goodbye from me, Charles.
Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.